Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Today I want to talk to you about unlimiting limited beliefs and opinions. And so, Sometimes when I have an idea I want to discuss with you guys, I sort of practice what I want to say in the shower or laying in bed, and I really didn't do that this time. I have sort of, an idea of the things I want to say to you all, but I didn't practice it, so I may ramble and I may say things out of order, so just bear with me. So, unlimiting limited beliefs. Um, I work in an office during the day, and there's usually me, my friend Crystal. We're in the outer office, and then there's sort of an inner office to my left where our boss is, and then another sort of manager, but who comes and goes. But for the most part, it's me and Crystal out in the outer office, manager in the inner office, and she can kind of hear what we say, but she's cool in that we basically can talk about whatever we want to talk about as long as there aren't other employees in the office or customers or drivers and things coming into the office. So, a lot of times during the day we talk about sex and boys and dicks and food and children and dating and all kinds of things. And occasionally, I will say things to be funny that I don't necessarily believe, or I will say things that I just had an opinion about but didn't really realize I had an opinion about, if that makes sense to you. And it's like I'm hearing it out loud when I say it to her. And I got to thinking one day, it was our boss went to go smoke a cigarette, and I said, "Hey, I want to ask you something. Sometimes we talk about things, this, that, the other, and, I'll ask her, do you think I'm a judgmental person? Because sometimes I say things to be funny, and I don't necessarily believe what I'm saying, it's just a joke. But at the same time, I am a product of my generation. I was born in 73. I'll be 50 in about 2 years. I'm a product of the place I grew up in. I grew up in a very small town in South Carolina. I'm a product of the house I grew up in. I was raised by my grandparents because my parents divorced, and I wound up being raised by grandparents. And I'm also a product of my own experiences, things that have happened to me. And so I've come to realize that sometimes things that I believe limit me in some way. I'll give you an example. When I say I'm a product of the house I grew up in, I was raised by my grandparents, and I recall vividly. I had an uncle who married a woman that my grandparents didn't approve of, and I hope none of my family watches this, but basically, my uncle married his best friend's wife when they got divorced, and his best friend was no longer his best friend. And my grandmother sort of thought of this woman as kind of loose and whatnot. And I remember the woman redecorated my uncle's bedroom, and she put up red curtains. And I distinctly remember my grandma saying, red is for whores. And I was just such a little kid that stuck in my brain, and I began to associate red with whores. In talking to my friend Crystal, again, I'm a product of my generation, where I grew up, the house I grew up, and my own experiences. Crystal, on the other hand, she's a product of her generation and where she grew up and her family. She was a military brat, so she lived all over. She got to experience different cultures. She lived overseas. She lived at different places in the United States. She's about 10 years younger than me. She is a roller derby girl. In fact, I'm told she was quite famous in that circuit. Her name was Knee High Nightmare, and I'm told that her face was on buses all over Seattle at one point. Maybe even a billboard, I can't remember. So she's a lot more worldly than I am. She's also been married, I'll just say more than once, and she has several children, so she has some experiences that I don't have, and she's experienced a little bit more of the world than I have. Me, I've lived in two places in my life. I've lived in South Carolina, and I lived here. Now, the good thing about living here in Oak Harbor, Washington, as I said before, there's a Navy base right down there. I live on an island where there are people here from all over the world and all over the country. So when I moved here, I got to experience more of different cultures, different attitudes, and different people, which has been really, exciting for me to get to learn about all these different cultures and things. And in my talks with Crystal, I have gotten to where I've confronted some of my beliefs and opinions which I feel limit me. For example, and I'm probably going to lose a lot of people here, I personally don't find tattoos attractive on a man. On a woman, I don't care. I'm not attracted to women. And I say this as someone who identifies as an artist. Before I was a writer, I was an artist. I used to love to draw. And then I got hurt. I got arrested, and the cop hurt my hand, and I lost some of the fine control you need as an artist. And then years later, when I got things like an iPad, I started looking into digital art, which was easier for me. And those of you who have seen, own a copy of my book, Secrets of a Sissy Boy, a gay grimoire of modern magic for men who love men and the hags who worship them, available at Amazon. You've seen some of my artwork in that book, and for those of you who haven't, I'm just going to share some stuff right now. This is something I drew a couple of years ago. This is a little twink. So, as a gay man and as an artist, I draw what I like. So here we see a young man. I just feel like the tattoos kind of detract from the beauty of the human body. In my art, I've also done, trying to find things that I could show you guys. So, here's Chris Evans. This picture appeared in my book in the section on gay icons. A lucky witch. This really doesn't have anything to do with my topic of this discussion. I just kind of want to show off some of my artwork. Y'all ain't got nothing to do anyway, do you? Here's a good one I love. Ganesha. I turned this into a candle label. Speaking of candle labels, here's a guy right here. I love this picture. I made his chest hair in the shape of South Carolina. Just like showing off my artwork. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, here's one of my candle labels. I called it Law of Attraction. Here's another one, Heart Ease. Uncross my heart and hope to love. This is a popular one, Hexbreaker, that I designed. I want to show you a couple of more pictures before I keep talking. Y'all know this guy here, right? Y'all recognize him? That's a trained scientist. And then we'll do this one. So that's some of my art. And like I said, I kind of feel like the tattoos sort of detract from the beauty of the human body. That is one of my limiting beliefs. I also don't care for when a man takes off his shirt and he has pierced nipples. I just find that really, really unattractive. And those are some of my limited beliefs and opinions. That's just two that I've recently discovered and sort of confronted. And you've seen these things like this before, especially if you do any type of online dating or the hookup sites like Grindr or Adam for Adam. You'll see people's profiles say something like masculine for masculine, or no fats, no femmes, and there is a controversy within this where someone will say, no blacks, no Asians. And part of me is like, okay, I get it. You're attracted to what you're attracted to, or you're attracted to what you think you're attracted to. And some people are of the school that say, how do you know you don't like peas if you've never eaten them? Um, so it's sort of a thing to where you have to sort of confront your beliefs and opinions. And I talk a lot about the law of attraction and the secret and being able to get what you want. But the truth is, not everybody gets everything that they want. On some things, you just have to compromise. Look at the Bible. Look at Jesus, the Son of God. He said, Lord, if it be thy will, let this cup pass me by. He didn't want to be nailed to that old rugged cross. He didn't want that for himself. But it was God's will that it happened, and that's what happened to him. Now, there are things in my life that I did not want to happen, and it happened. There are things in my life that I thought I wanted, and then when I got it, I realized I didn't want it. I remember, really liking a certain guy, and I hooked him, I attracted him, and I remember, we had sex, and I remember laying there in the bed cuddling with him afterwards and just thinking about how empty I felt. It didn't really live up to what, the sex was good, but it just wasn't what I thought I wanted. It wasn't what I thought I wanted. And so I had to really reassess what I wanted and really go past that sort of superficial picture and look at the person, the soul behind the person, the soul energy, the vital life force behind this shell of a body. Because, one day, this, in terms of sex and love, one day this body isn't going to be anymore. And so I really had to think about how some of my beliefs and opinions limit me. Now, today, sitting here, if I met a guy and he was nice to me and he was stable and I found him, reasonably attractive and he was covered in tattoos, would I break up with him? No. If I met a guy who was reasonably attractive and nice to me and treated me well and he took off his shirt and he had nipple piercings, would I reject him? No. I might remove them while he's sleeping, but I wouldn't reject him. So, that's what this video is about. I want you to think about how some of your beliefs and opinions limit you in some way. Maybe you haven't manifested what you really wanted because you are limiting yourself in some way. Because, I do believe with the law of attraction that you can get what you want in some instances, but in other instances, you have to compromise. And in that compromise is where you grow and evolve as a human being. So, that is why I'm encouraging you today to think about what it is you want. Write it down. Write down exactly what you want. And then I want you to play devil's advocate and think about how what you think you want may be limiting you in some way. Just an example off the top of my head. You say you want to be rich. Well, in your mind you want Ed McMahon, who I know he's dead. You want Ed McMahon to show up at your door with a big check from Publishers Clearinghouse. Or you want to win $30 million in the scratch-off. Well, it might not happen that way, but it could happen a different way. You could have an idea and turn that idea into a business and then put in a lot of hard work. And then that hard work translates to a lot of money, and then you invest that money, you get a wealth manager, and that wealth manager turns that profit into, millions of dollars for you. So in the end, you got what you want, but how you got it was different from how you envision it happening. Anyway, think about how your beliefs and opinions limit you, and I will continue to do the same.